Why is ImmutableX on a run again? Why is the IMX token going up? In this video, we are not going to look at fundamentals because we've already done this in a prior video. Feel free to check that out. I think this rally has very much to do with technical analysis. This here is the view on the fundamentals published 1 month ago. And in this video, I'm not going to bore you drawing random lines on this US dollar chart because that's a problem in general with US dollar charts in crypto. Crypto assets are highly correlated to one another. When Bitcoin goes up, then the altcoins go up as well. When Ethereum goes down, then the altcoins go down as well. So really what we have to look at is the relative performance. In the end, we get into altcoins in order to get outperformance over Ethereum and Bitcoin, right? We take on more risk with an altcoin, we want more performance because otherwise it wouldn't make sense to get into the altcoins in the first place. Now, before we start with those relative valuation charts, I want to show you something about the current state of the altcoin market because something is very interesting here. This here is total 3 divided by total. Now, what does that mean? Total 3 is cryptocurrency's market cap except Bitcoin and Ethereum. So we are looking at, of the entire crypto ecospace, how much capital, relatively speaking, is in the altcoin. So we can see, is there currently an altcoin rally, an altcoin rotation happening? Is money flowing from Bitcoin and Ethereum to the alts, or is it flowing from the alts to Bitcoin and Ethereum? Whenever this graph is high, it means that the altcoins are relatively expensive. Whenever this graph is low, it means that Bitcoin and Ethereum is relatively expensive. And there seem to be sideways trading ranges happening. Recently, Bitcoin and Ethereum outperformed a lot, especially probably because of the Bitcoin ETF approval or the anticipation thereof. And the rally that we are seeing in the last few days, this rally over here, it's simply a bounce of a support from the 29th of June 2023. This bump up here was the XRP ruling, where XRP won in court. That momentum carried us for a while, and then came the Bitcoin ETF approval rumors. And now we just see another bounce again. Not necessarily fundamentally driven, I believe. I don't see real strong news supporting this. But it appears as if we are creating again another sideways trading range, similar to what happened in May of 2021 to March of this year. So this is the whole context behind this. It looks like altcoins in general are doing quite fine. There's also a display of this that's a bit simpler. This is the crypto bubbles. This is the performance today of all kinds of altcoins. This is the same here for this week. Pretty much green everywhere if you didn't buy, for example, MakerDAO or Bitcoin SV or the render token. So overall things are green and IMX is profiting more from this. And that's again, I believe, because of TA, of technical analysis. Most people, when they look at relative valuation charts, look at the Bitcoin denominated chart. So how is an altcoin doing relative to Bitcoin? That's fine. I like this as well. But I also like to look at the relative valuation to Ethereum. And that's because of the correlation of altcoins to Ethereum. Now, correlation means how much does an asset move in tandem with another asset. Ethereum tends to move more in tandem with IMX than Bitcoin does. When Ethereum goes up, then IMX goes up. And when Ethereum goes down, then IMX goes down. We see this kind of relationship between Ethereum and the altcoins way stronger than between Bitcoin and the altcoins. That's counterintuitive, but that's what the numbers are telling us. In other words, if we want to distill the idiosyncratic movements or the movements specific to that altcoin, then we should rather look at the relative valuation chart to Ethereum than to Bitcoin. But let's first start off with Bitcoin because that's the benchmark. This is IMX divided by Bitcoin. And as with so many altcoins, we see a long-term underperformance, but that's fine. There was no real altcoin season recently, and altcoins tend to outperform only in brief periods of time. But look how this is shooting up. We've got here support with a lot of different confirmations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The potential further outperformance from here could be 30%. If we tend to overshoot again a bit, maybe 40 or 50%. The potential underperformance, if we can't reach the top, is minus 37%. Now look at this chart, right? Look how nicely this all aligns. I don't think this is just coincidence. Now compare this to the US dollar chart. Here we don't see that nice of an alignment of any bottoms, right? Because we've got the impact of the overall market in there. If we are already at a support somewhere here and suddenly we see Bitcoin crashing, then the supports get broken. Same the other way around, right? When suddenly Bitcoin rises, then the resistance might get broken. We don't really have anything that shows us a clear trend. But IMX relative to Bitcoin shows us this way nicer. Now here is IMX relative to Ethereum. And here the alarm bells might start ringing. Here we are already very, very high on this long-term downwards trend. One could argue that we didn't bleed much for the last year roughly, but really just from a TA perspective, this isn't too pretty. This chart in Bitcoin looks fine. This chart in Ethereum does not. And given that the altcoin rally in general seems to be driven by technical analysis, and given that the outperformance of IMX also seems to be driven by technical analysis, I think it's at least prudent to set a trailing stop loss. Now a stop loss is simply just a level where you would be selling if the price falls below that, right? You want to make sure that you don't lose anything. A trailing stop loss is a stop loss that you adjust as the price goes up. So maybe you set a trailing stop loss 10% below the all-time high. And so when we get a correction that's more than 10%, then you would be taking your profit. So the idea is that you would continue riding this positive wave as we continue to rise. You don't take profit too early, but once momentum turns around, once it shoots down enough, and you can set this at 10%, at 15%, whatever is your risk tolerance, then you would be exiting quickly enough so that you still get enough profit. With this current relative valuation chart to Ethereum, I think this is the most prudent thing to do. I'm not saying it makes sense to sell IMX right now. I don't have a crystal ball either. Overall, the altcoins also tend to rather now outperform for the next days. We have seen a nice support, but there is quite a bit of a resistance in IMX, and we have to take this into consideration somehow. Feel free to like and subscribe and join our Telegram. Link is down below.